I thought the Saturday community day would be the climax. I was wrong. That was only the opening act. The Real explosion came 2 weeks later, on a cold November morning when half the county thought the story was already over. Margaret had been released on $1 million bond after her arrest. The judge let her stay in what she still called my residence, under house arrest with an ankle bracelet, because the mansion was the only address big enough for pretrial services to monitor. She couldn't leave the property she no longer owned. I didn't mind. I was living in my rebuilt cabin number 2, a modest pole barn I'd thrown up on the back acre while the legal dust settled. Every dawn I could look across the lawn and see her silhouette pacing those balconies like a ghost who hadn't accepted she was dead. Then came the fire. It started just after midnight. I woke to the smell of smoke and the scream of sirens. By the time I got my boots on, the east wing, the 6-car garage and the ballroom, was fully involved. Flames shot 50 feet above the red tile roof. Fire crews from 3 counties fought it for 6 hours. The local news chopper circled all night. I stood on my dock in borrowed turnout gear, watching Margaret's palace burn, and felt something colder than the November wind. Because I knew, and the fire marshal confirmed it an hour later, the blaze was arson. Accelerant poured in 5-gallon buckets through broken French doors. Security cameras fried, but one trail cam I'd left on a pine tree survived. The grainy footage showed a figure in a dark hoodie and gloves, face hidden, moving with calm purpose. The timestamp read 12:17 a.m. The figure paused, looked straight at the camera, and raised a middle finger before disappearing into the woods. The internet went berserk. Half the comments called me a folk hero who'd finally snapped. The other half called me a domestic terrorist who belonged in prison next to Margaret. Death threats rolled into my inbox. Someone shot out the windshield of my truck while it sat in the driveway. I didn't sleep for 4 days. Then came the twist nobody saw coming. While the fire investigators were still sifting ashes, a flash drive arrived at the sheriff's office in a plain manila envelope. No note. Just the drive and a single Polaroid of the burning mansion taken from the lakeside. On the drive was 47 minutes of crystal-clear 4K video from inside the house the night of the fire. The hoodie came off in Margaret's private study. Underneath was David Harrington, Margaret's 38-year-old son, face twisted with rage, splashing gasoline on the Italian leather furniture while his mother stood behind him, holding a flashlight and whispering, "Do it clean. Make sure the insurance adjuster sees total loss." She thought if the house was gone, I'd get nothing but a blackened hole in the ground. She was willing to burn $5 million to spite me. The ankle bracelet data sealed it. Margaret never left the house that night, but the GPS pings put David inside the perimeter fence for exactly 34 minutes, long enough. They arrested both of them at sunrise the next day. This time there was no bond. Felony arson, insurance fraud, conspiracy, the works. The prosecutor tacked on a hate crime enhancer because the fire was meant to intimidate me into abandoning my legal claim. The second trial was uglier than the first. Margaret took the stand in an orange jumpsuit 2 sizes too big and tried to play the victim. Said her son acted alone, that she'd begged him to stop, that grief over losing her life's work had broken him crazy. The jury didn't buy it for a second. 12 minutes of deliberation, and they came back guilty on every count. Sentencing day fell on a gray December afternoon with snow in the air. The courtroom was packed again, standing room only. When the judge asked if Margaret had anything to say, she stood up, looked me dead in the eye, and said, "You think you won, Robert. You turned my home into a daycare for lake trash. Enjoy it while it lasts. There are more of me out there." The judge gave her 12 years, no parole. David got 15. And then the final, strangest chapter began. With the mansion a total loss, the insurance company wrote a check for $5.8 million, made out to me, because I was the legal owner when it burned. I cashed it the same week. Most men would have pocketed the money and walked away rich. Instead, I called every family meeting on the frozen lawn where the house used to stand. More than 400 people showed up, bundled in Carhartts and scarves, steam coming off their coffee cups. I told them the insurance money was going into a permanent trust. We were going to rebuild, bigger, better, and this time it would be ours, not mine. 2 years later, on the exact spot where Margaret once sipped champagne and told me my life didn't fit her vision, we cut the ribbon on the Lakeshore Community Center. Same footprint, new soul. Solar panels on the roof, commercial kitchen that feeds kids breakfast in the summer, auditorium that seats 500, a wing dedicated to free legal aid for property rights cases anywhere in the state. The old marble fountain is now a memorial to every family Margaret tried to bully off their land. Their names are carved around the rim. On opening day, Margaret was there again, this time in a gray prison visitor's badge, escorted by 2 deputies. She'd asked to come. She stood in front of that fountain for a long time, reading the names, then turned to me and said, so quietly only I could hear, "I built something to take. You built something to give. I hate that you were right." I didn't answer, just handed her a shovel and pointed to the sugar maple we were planting for the next generation. She dug the first scoop of dirt herself. That was the real climax. Not the fire, not the trials, not even the moment the judge handed me the keys to a house I never wanted. The climax was watching the woman who tried to steal my grandfather's land put her manicured hands in the dirt to plant a tree that will outlive us both. So now I'm going to ask you the hard question, and I want you to answer it straight in the comments. When someone comes after everything your family built, when they burn it to the ground rather than see you keep it, do you believe justice is enough? Or is there a moment where righteous vengeance feels like the only honest response? Some of you will say turn the other cheek. Some of you will say an eye for an eye leaves everybody blind. Some of you will say I should have let the house burn and walked away with the check. Tell me where you land. Be honest. Be specific. Because these aren't hypothetical questions anymore. They're the kind of choices real people face when the system finally works, but the scars are still bleeding. I'll be reading every single comment, and I'll answer as many as I can. Because the story isn't over until we decide, together, what kind of people we're going to be when the smoke finally clears.